All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock, and if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to change the agenda just a little bit, and we will look at the May 2025 minutes.
Move to approve with one amendment. Immigration control enforcement is referred to twice, but it's immigration and customs.
And where is that?
First page, second line, and there's another place in here somewhere.
I'll find it.
But yes, customs, not control. Yep.
Customs, okay.
So move to approve with that amendment.
I will second that, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 2-0. Next, we'll go to finance.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So first I have payroll warrant 2025-11 for the pay date of May 30th. The total liability on that is $270,982.70. The overtime is at $28,342.09. The sheriff's office has a few people out, so there was extra overtime in that area, and a detail that's at the communications center. So that was the reason for a little high, but that should come down later in the year. So there's that.
No, we're still under, though, for the year, it looks like. Am I reading this right, by 60,000? Was it on the first page? Oh, no, that's the
So we should,
other, that's not the overtime, I'm sorry, that's something else.
We should be at 40.7% overtime at this
Okay.
point in the
Right.
year, but we're at 45.9.
45.
We had some increased overtime expenses in the communication center, and that has since
Leveled out.
been, we've stopped doing that
Okay.
special detail.
Oh, yes.
And by the end of the year, we should be within the budget overall, and the excess amount of comm center overtime right now can be absorbed into the regular wage line on the budget. So there are funds there to pay for all of that.
Perfect.
Move to, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just going to move on to the AP warrant.
Oh, we'll do this one first.
Oh, sorry.
Move to approve payroll warrant 2025-11.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 2-0.
Okay, and then AP warrant 57. The bigger items on this are the Lincoln Saginaw Jail Authority jail assessment and a bond interest payment, and that is $217,111.58. And also Burgess Technology, some annual subscriptions that we pay around this time every year, $48,276.75. And then also a new SUV for the sheriff's office, it's $45,670,000.
And those are the payment authorizations that you granted at the last meeting.
Just the last meeting.
Yes.
right? Okay.
Move to approve accounts payable warrant number 57.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. All right, let's go back up to public forum. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Please come to the table.
Come up here? Okay. Yes, thank you. My name's Heather Ellsworth. Oh, okay.
We'll give you our full undivided attention in 1 second.
Excuse me, just wanted to make you make the journey to the table.
I see. It's a long, hard journey.
Great, thank you, York.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to express my concern about,
You Your name again, please, I missed it.
Oh, Heather Ellsworth,
Heather Ellsworth, okay.
spelled like the town.
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to express my concern about, in general, all, like many counties in Maine, collaborating with ICE and Border Control. I see how much it's destroying communities, and I think it's terrifying. And I am not completely aware myself of which counties are taking federal grants and which aren't, and how much that matters. But regardless, I am just very in favor of separating Maine law enforcement from any collaboration with ICE and Border Patrol. I really want safety for people who live here.
Ma'am, where are you from?
I live in Warren, so I'm Knox County.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for visiting
Sure.
Lincoln County.
I figured it was okay to come regardless, but,
Anywhere.
okay,
County.
yeah.
No, thank you for your concerns.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
It's definitely been brought up before.
Yeah. What is the current state of affairs for this county?
Right now, we have our sheriff and deputy sheriff right behind you, and I'm sure they would be happy to discuss.
Sure, I mean, in brief, if it's okay.
Yeah, please,
Chair,
Sheriff.
In brief, you know, there's a couple of levels in which we've been asked to have involvement with the federal government, right? One is this 287G agreement. You may have seen some, like Wells PD, got some, drew some attention on that issue. So we're not, we have no interest in participating with ICE and immigration enforcement, right? I've directed my staff to, there's a National Crime Information Center network that every law enforcement agency in the country is. So if we do a routine traffic stop or whatever and we run some driver's license, things will pop up. So if you're a felon because you've committed a robbery, say in Chicago, and you happen to be here in Maine, and you're added into the system, it will pop up. So we're aware of those things. So the same is true for illegal. Some folks who are in the country illegally, right? And there are two essentially kind of things that we put in the computer. One is a deported felon, which means that they've committed a crime, they've been deported legally from the country, and so on and so forth. And then the other one is what they call an administrative warrant, right? So the only involvement we'll have, like with anybody who's wanted anywhere in the country, is if there's a felony warrant for them. And that's what I've instructed my staff. We're not going to get involved in administrative warrants, detainers, things of that nature. Hi, come on in.
Hey.
So with that kind of thing, you know, so we're not. Yeah, I mean that's.
So if someone gets pulled over for a traffic stop, you don't cross-reference with ICE?
No.
Because it seems like that's been happening, not necessarily here,
No,
but
so we've
we
had.
have information.
Listen, folks are on edge. So let me tell you this. My priority here in Lincoln County is public safety, right? So if people are here in my county committing a crime, our county committing a crime, or have committed a crime elsewhere in Maine, to me it's irrelevant where they're from, right? We're going to enforce the law. We're going to enforce the orders of the court with warrants and things like that, right? So, but we don't have time to enforce federal law. I'm not interested in enforcing federal law. And people are on edge, right? So we had a van broken down beside the road the other day. Deputy just stopped to see if they needed help. 10 guys got out of the truck and scattered like flies, right? Took off running, right?
Yeah.
They ultimately came back out, within 20 minutes or so. Really had nothing to do with us. We were just people on edge, right?
Sure.
Right. And I understand it. There's a lot of that's not our bailiwick. If we stop somebody who has a administrative warrant, we're able to call Border Patrol or ICE. That's their bailiwick. 9 times out of 10, they tell us they're not available to come. You know what I mean? We're not going to detain them either way. If they're not right-handy, we're not going to detain them either way.
Okay.
And the same is true at Two Bridges, right? Now we participate. We have for a number of years, and we will continue. Well, as far as I'm concerned, ultimately it's up to the commissioners each year when we renew. But we do participate in Operation Stone Garden, which is a federal border security grant.
Okay.
All right, yeah. you know, which allows us to put extra patrols on the road. It allows us to, you know, there's no regulation, right? We're not out looking for folks from away. We're not profiling when you know what I mean? We're just doing regular patrol duties. It allows me to put extra deputies on the road to do traffic enforcement, to check our harbors for foreign flag vessels, things like information like that, and participate with Border Patrol. It's provided a bunch of equipment for us here in the county as well over the years, and it's been really successful. The only obligation we have to Border Patrol, like for example, I could use Stone Garden monies to put extra deputies at Pumpkin Fest to help with traffic, crowd control, or whatever. I can use Stone Garden money to do speed enforcement in Sheepscot Village, popular spot for us where we get a lot of complaints, right?
My
like
understanding
that.
though is there's a trade-off, that there are expectations that come with receiving that grant.
The only expectation is that we report our activity for the day, right? So if I make a traffic stop, if I notice a foreign flag vessel, that's noted. We send a report off to Border Patrol. We're done. So we just report out to them what we do. They don't tell us where to go, what to do, how to do it. It's really in our ways. It's really replaced some of the traffic safety grant funds that we've used for seatbelt enforcement and things like that. So it's been beneficial for us.
Okay.
And I see no detriment in that because my stance hasn't changed, right? And again, let's not forget, my job is public safety here in Lincoln County, and I want to make sure that the people of Lincoln County are safe. So we're going to do what we can to
All right.
make sure that happens, no matter where people come from. But I'm not interested in ICE enforcement. My guys aren't. They've been told not to. You know, we don't. Yeah.
Have there been any immigrants grabbed from this county for things that aren't related to felonies?
From the sheriff's office standpoint, because there are 4 other police departments 4 municipal police departments in the county: state police, warden service, everybody else. I don't have any idea what they're doing. From the sheriff's office standpoint, I don't think we've not arrested anybody who wasn't charged with a crime. So, and in the last 6 months, I have a FOIA request right now from the ACLU on this very topic, right? That I'm working to fulfill. So I've been just looking at this data, right? And I think we've only had less than 5 traffic stops since December of last year that involve folks from away. You know what I mean? Folks who may not be, you know, from the United States. So it's very minimal for us, right? So, and to my knowledge, we haven't arrested anybody who didn't have a felony warrant, who wasn't committing a crime here right now.
Okay.
That's us at the sheriff's office. I can't speak for Wiscasset, Damascotta,
Right.
Waldoboro, and Booth Bay Harbor.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll cede my time. Thank you.
No problem.
Sheriff, do you know if those departments are involved? I think the program is 287G program with ICE
Yeah, to my knowledge, there are no 287G folks
in Lincoln County.
in Lincoln County at all. No, there's no departments that are participating with
Okay.
ICE, and I can't emphasize enough, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I see no reason for it. It's not an issue for us here, but we've got plenty of other things to do.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Ms. Elliott,
Good morning,
good morning.
Good morning.
esteemed commissioners. I wrote it down this time. Here I am again to talk about policies regarding Lincoln County and not working with ICE. I've been assured here that the Sheriff's Department will only seek and detain anyone with a judicial felony warrant. I appreciate Sheriff Todd Brackett's assurances. That gives me great comfort. But the madness continues. On Friday, May 30th, the press conference was called by the Maine Democratic Socialists on the steps of the Portland City Hall. It was covered by Channel 13, Fox. You can see it now on YouTube. It was a really great thing to watch. They were testifying about 2 more kidnappings. That's what I call it. Lucas Segovia and Marcos Enrique were arrested and detained by ICE on Monday at 6 a.m. in Portland on their way to work for having their license plate slightly off-center. That's why they were pulled over. It wasn't centered exactly.
Sorry to interrupt, what department pulled them over? Was it ICE or a
ICE.
local? Okay.
ICE. Neither one of them had any charges against them anywhere. Their families testified. They're at Two Bridges as of Friday. Their families testified that they are hardworking, honest, and loving men. The Latino culture is the very best, beautiful culture, family-wise, I've ever known. Anyway, so tomorrow, LD 1259 is going to be voted on in the Judiciary Committee. It's a bill to prohibit local Maine law enforcement from working with ICE. We sure hope it passes. It's looking good. My understanding, though, is that the DOJ is going to freeze funding to any states, counties, and towns that will not capitulate with their domestic terrorism. What would be your next move towards protecting our county if they freeze funds? Question mark.
I don't know if I could answer that yet. Until it happens, you'd certainly have to look at whatever effect the lack of funding does, and then have to make some choices
Okay.
there. But I don't even know the current
don't
level
know.
of funding. Do you
I
happen
don't
to
know what the
Carrie?
state gets for federal funds
Or
that then
whatever.
trickle down to
That
us.
trickle down, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, I hope it doesn't come to that, you know? I hope we can stop that before it
Right,
gets
right.
final approval. But yeah, they're pissed because a lot of places are not working with them. You know, it's not in line with the regime. Oh no, I guess it's administration. So anyway, that's been my concern. That last part is, what will we do if they freeze our funds? And I understand you don't know exactly what you would do at this point until it comes down. I'm worried that you're going to lose some funding. Well, you know.
There's not enough funding already. So
Yeah.
every county begs the state to pay for the county jails anyway, and just goes right to the taxpayers.
Right.
Local property tax every year.
So, last I heard, there's 150 detainees in Two Bridges, and federal government is paying them $104 a day for each one of them. There was some crazy rumor that those guys were only getting one meal a day, which is bullshit. I called, they're like, are you kidding me? No, everybody gets 3 squares. So, you know, but another concern, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even say anything. Why are they paying so much to hold those immigrants, 99%, that don't have any criminal record and are not affiliated with any gang? Why are they paying all that money? Huh?
104 a day?
No, that's at Two Bridges.
Right.
Now I'm talking about El Salvador.
Sure.
And my worry is that they'll decide not to pay and then be truly disappeared. I know that's not on your in your wheelhouse, so to speak, that part. And then, you know, our protests, right? There's going to be big protests on the 14th. I'm sure everybody's heard about it. No King's Day. And I don't know, I'm kind of looking and worrying about bad actors infiltrating, you know. starting something, and then they'll call martial law. Last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a Jewish coalition that were protesting against the war in Gaza. They were there, they were in the street. Sheriff or police let them chill for a few, then they told them to disperse. Well, 20 people sat down. Police gave them another 45 minutes to get up and leave. They didn't, so they got arrested. So one of my friends in a group that I'm in, she was arrested. And I mean, she was overnight holding cell. It wasn't like, and with all the mean women. And then she was processed out, and she had to pay bail. That's what they teach us. If there's a riot situation or whatever, just sit down. Back in the day, I think it was probably Columbia University. God, I'm sorry, I don't know the whole thing, but they were protesting, and the police came, and they were trying to get people to leave and start arresting people, and everybody sat down and blocked that police car from moving. I think it's going to get kind of hairy. I really do. I'm marshalling for the summer stroll in Rockland on the 15th, and it's going to have Pride Festival intermixed with the regular Sunday strolls that they have. And boy, are we concerned about that. We're going to have to protect our transgender people the most. There's going to be a drag show. There's going to be speakers. And, I'm kind of concerned. The other ones I've marshaled at, no problem. But now, this one, I am worried, very worried. But there's going to be a lot of us there. And anyway, so there's people that want to infiltrate and make it hard for us because of the, Fox News broadcast, the only thing they ever listen to. So, I guess I've said all I want to say today. And I appreciate you gentlemen being kind to me and not looking at me like I'm crazy, even though I am a bit nuts. So.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming in. I've just, one comment though is that we have to get facts, and it's my understanding that one of the gentlemen that you mentioned was arrested on a warrant, an international warrant, so for a crime committed elsewhere, but there was a warrant there, so that wasn't necessarily stated at that rally.
No, it wasn't.
That you had mentioned there too.
No,
so
they didn't mention that.
So it does help to share information so that we all know what we're
Absolutely.
talking about.
Absolutely.
But, so thank you for being here, because then we can pass that along to you too.
Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We're really trying to, if I could,
Yes,
we're
please,
really
sure.
trying to strike a balance, and which is hard to do, right? And we're not always going to agree, right?
Right.
God bless America, right? So today we have 164 people at Two Bridges.
Oh.
19 of those only 19 are being held for ICE, right? The one who's been there the least has been there 38 days. I don't see either of the names you mentioned on the list as being at Two Bridges. You know what I mean? Currently, you know what I mean? Now, I don't know, they may have been there in the past. I only have today's list.
And they
You know
may
what
have
I mean?
been
So,
transferred out already.
that could be, yeah, I don't know. But like I said, the person who's been there the least has been there 38 days. We have an agreement with ICE not to house more than 25. Is it 22 or 25? I can't remember. The rate and that rate is set by the U.S. Marshal Service, right? Because we house prisoners for the U.S. Marshal Service as well. It's the same way with every jail that houses federal inmates, you know what I mean? In other words, it's not an arbitrary number. it's set by the federal government. It's essentially what they're willing to pay based on the services that we provide at whatever jail that they're doing. None of these people, to my knowledge, and it's clearly been affirmed by the jail authority that we're not gonna house anybody for ICE or any other federal person who's not being held on criminal charges. We're not gonna house people who are just there on administrative warrants or a detainer for no other reason than they weren't able to produce any documentation of their status here in the country, right?
What
They
happens-
have to be charged with a crime.
What
Of some
happens
sort.
if they were taken on an administrative warrant? Where do they go?
I don't know, ICE has a processing center in Portland, right? And then I don't know, that's a question for ICE, I really don't know. But we've tried to take a pretty aggressive stance with that. I can't see the jail authority, I can't speak for them, I'm only
No.
one member,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes.
But I can't see us changing that proposal, and we're just trying to strike a balance between public safety and everything that's going on, and I don't disagree with anything you've said personally, you know what I mean? So we take it pretty seriously, but we're trying to balance it, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to clarify a couple of those issues. There's 164 out there, not all of them are from ICE. I know how the rumor mill goes.
Oh my
sometimes,
God,
you
and
know.
that, they're only feeding them one meal a day, and
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
get-
you gotta be really careful, because people will just go overboard with their weird theories
Yeah.
and stuff, so I double checked, I check facts, because,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
And I'll add one thing about I think this is a kind of a complicated thing. With Two Bridges Regional Jail, it's co-owned by both Lincoln and Saginaw County, but it's a separate board and governance structure, so it's essentially a completely separate entity that Lincoln County and Saginaw both own. So it's made up of a board of representatives from both counties. And I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but you, in your capacity of sheriff, handle the inmates that are Lincoln County inmates.
As far as transportation and stuff like that goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then sheriff in Saginaw County handles their inmates, and everybody else is basically handled under contract by the authority.
Yes.
Right. So that's one small governance thing of people have a common misconception that while we co-own it as counties, we don't have a day-to-day say, so the jail authority runs it. And if you or anyone else would like to attend, the next meeting for that is July 9th at 4 p.m. at the jail.
July 9th, 4 p.m.
Yep.
So can you repeat what the meeting's for?
That's just the regular jail authority meeting.
Okay.
So every other county has their own jail or facility, and then they run it as a county. But because we have our own regional jail that's shared, it's a completely separate structure of governance compared to any other county jail in the state,
Okay.
which just makes it a odd thing.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So odd that others may want to join us. So, thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming and
We appreciate
bringing your
you being
concerns.
Thank you, I'll try not to keep bugging you all the time.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, what kind of coffee do you drink? We're just about ready to get the coffee machine installed.
Oh, real dark coffee, you know. I had a friend that would say, he says, "Good morning, I am your coffee." He was such a character. Anyway,
Thank you.
Dark
thank you
roast,
very
got it.
much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak? Well, hearing none, as soon as the sheriff gets out of the doorway, he's up.
Okay. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It looks like our count this morning is 164 out at Two Bridges.
Thank you, sir.
19 are Lincoln County, 32 from SAG, 15 from Knox, 48 from Penobscot, 27 from Waldo, 4 federal inmates aside from the 19 folks that are there from ICE. If you don't have any questions on the count, the only issue I have for you this morning is a purchase authorization for our annual subscription for our Motorola body cams. It looks like, I don't know if I have the right amount, I think it's just over $6,624 or $6,624, which is a budgeted amount.
And that, that's like the connectivity to the computers?
That's a couple of things, right? I think, right? So part of that is a subscription fee that goes along with it. So that includes the subscription, and that includes our uploads to the cloud server and things like that.
Remember last meeting, I told you
Yes,
how
that's
we're gonna
right.
get dinged every year. I didn't realize it was gonna come back the very next meeting, but this is
It's right
exactly
there
what we
with
talked
that.
about.
And that's as I remember you saying, it connects to the vehicle, and then when the vehicle arrives here, it can connect to the other computers.
When
So-
they're all the new systems, right? And I
Right.
think I talked with Carrie briefly, we're preparing some options to come back and talk with you more about updating some of the cars, but
Okay.
Yeah, some of our equipment is older, as the
Right.
chief probably told you at the last meeting, and so we've got brand new body cams and 10 or 12-year-old dash cams, and they don't communicate to the computer the same way. They don't communicate with each other the same way, so the deputies are having to manually enter things. It's just it's a challenge for
Yeah.
us. So anyway.
But
we're working
vital
on it.
records that need to be kept.
They're all
whatever,
kept,
so,
yeah. They're all kept, yeah.
And backups too for what
Yep.
you have over
We
there.
have a hard server and a cloud server.
Great. And do you folks use Burgess just like the rest of the county?
We do.
Yeah, okay.
Move to approve the purchase authorization for $6,624.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 2-0.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
So have you driven the new SUV to
I have
try
not.
that out yet?
I have not. I see it's in the back parking lot. That's
Okay.
good.
And do you have to decal it and everything too, or? is
Yeah,
that-
so all our frontline, all the vehicles that are issued to patrol, our frontline vehicles are all decaled, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, it gets the works.
you're right, and then it gets outfitted for all the electronics as well.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, great. Look forward to seeing it on the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Director?
Well, thank you, Sheriff. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, first, I want to say this is a positive thing today.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for any money.
yay,
Good, we're all out.
that's right.
So, the comm center takes a lot of medical calls, fire calls, and police calls. Our medical calls, we utilize emergency medical dispatching, and those are protocols. Thank you. Those are protocols that are utilized to assist the dispatcher in giving direction to the caller and to the patient for the best outcome possible. And so today, we have 2 calls that had outstanding results that were even noticed at the main state EMS level. And so if I could have the 2 dispatchers who are involved, they're 2 different calls, but we have Craig Ballston and Richard Hash, if you could come stand up here, please. So the order I'm going to do them in is the most exciting thing that we can have happen at the comm center, and we've had it happen, this will be the 4th time, is the delivery of a baby. And this one goes to Craig Ballston for successfully utilizing EMD to deliver a baby boy on February 27th, 2025 at 3:10 in the morning. And he gets the certificate, a pin in the store.
Oh,
But I'll let Craig tell you a little bit about the circumstances involved in that one.
Take a picture first.
They're going to take a picture of you.
smile, look at the camera, hold the store up.
Alright,
So 3:10 in the morning.
3:10 in the morning. Yes.
Wowzers.
I work overnight, so obviously, and just sitting there, just waiting to go home at 5, and then it comes the call, and they're already on the road to the hospital. So I start doing the, get the location, the phone number, just in case we get disconnected. I tell them to pull over, because the baby was coming, and just went right into doing my instructions as they said the baby's out. before I could even get to the next step. So it was a quick, quick delivery.
Craig was able to provide them directions though as far as taking care of the mom after that and anything else that is involved, and also keeping the baby warm. And I have to say, listening to the call, I've listened to it a couple times, they were the calmest people on this planet.
Yeah, they were the calmest. Yes, they were.
So unbelievably calm.
They were still asleep.
The entire family was in the car, and baby sister and everything, and they even shared the baby's name
Yeah.
with Craig, and there is a picture on Facebook that we were able to get and everything that shows even roadside, mom and baby
Wow.
and stuff, so.
And while you're doing that, did you dispatch an ambulance too?
My partner
at the
did,
same
yeah.
time? Okay.
I was thinking they should have named it Craig.
The baby's name is Elliot.
Elliot, yeah.
But,
Cool.
so that's
figured
quite an honor.
Yes.
You know, and it just reminds us why we do what we do, and sometimes we don't always have positive results. It's more of a comforting role that we play, but in this one, it was a super exciting one.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations, that's exciting.
So the next award,
Right then.
well, you can stand up there. Stand up there, we can picture both of you together after. The next award goes to Richard Hash. This one, like I said, this one we only find out about. We don't always know the end result of a call that we take. And this one came to our attention from Maine EMS because it's called the Phoenix Award. And this award can only be attained after the call is well done and over. And so this certificate's presented to Richard Hash, who, using their skills and knowledge with Lincoln County 911, participated in the successful resuscitation of a patient who experienced a cardiac arrest on February 19th, 2024. And it's not enough just to do the CPR on scene. In order to get this award, the patient has to leave the hospital under their own ability. So this was a true cardiac life-saving save. So the Phoenix Award gets a certificate, his pin, and his Phoenix. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll put your pin right there, they'll get your picture. And I may be inaccurate about this, but usually we do so many of these CPRs that I would be surprised if you recall the call.
I was going to say, I hope she
Yeah.
doesn't ask which one.
Yeah,
Because there's been so many.
And so we do them and we know we can't ever find out the end result for the most part. But in this one, Maine EMS, when it rises to the ability, they track the patients through their entire process. And if they leave the hospital successfully, then they contact not only the EMD center, first off, but also the ambulance services. And so they have us go back. I had to listen to the call to see, did he indeed perform CPR, or was it just a matter of toning it out or whatever. And he did. He instructed the bystander to utilize CPR and saved a life. So
Do you actually instruct him on the hands, wear placement and
Yep, all the
everything?
patients all right there for us.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's amazing that you could just walk it through on the phone.
Yeah.
Hopefully they had it on speaker so they could hear
Right.
with
Yeah,
the two hands.
that's a lot of times it's like, hold on, I gotta put it on speaker. I'm like, go ahead.
yeah, and they count with them and everything, and it gives our callers something to do. So we are changing lives each and every day, and even if they never have another situation like this, they had a huge impact, and so.
Wow. And was this a late night call too, or is it?
I'm sure I've been on nights for a while.
Yeah.
He works overnight, so.
Okay, wow. Well, both of you must be very tired then right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Congratulations
Can I
to
get them
both
two
of you.
together and you?
Yes.
I want the bird.
As they tower over.
There you go.
Yeah,
Get your
perfect.
stork up there.
Definitely get the stork in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're Richard?
No, Craig.
Craig?
Yeah.
Where you from?
Booth Bay Harbor.
Fantastic. Booth Bay Harbor.
Same, yeah, pretty close, Southport. So.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Super.
yeah,
Same
his,
peninsula.
Wow.
Front page, the Booth Bay Register.
yeah.
Better than that.
See, now he's making
No, no.
promises, so you better be
So-
there.
Sincere congratulations.
Congratulations. Keep up the great work.
Are you Bob's son?
Yeah.
I miss him. Call
Me too, he's in Florida.
Oh, is it really?
Maine EMS also provides you with a cardiac pin, I mean a, yeah, cardiac pin.
Nice.
So,
Pins, birds.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I had a flock in my office when the box arrived.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's for the
Thank you.
birds.
Awesome, guys, keep up the good
Yeah.
work.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Who's gonna sit and listen?
It's like, how can you go back to work after that nice
They're going to go home and probably go to sleep.
Good idea. You can leave that
big
open.
spout? Yeah. All right, I guess we're on to administrator. You're up, Patty.
So the first item I have is a purchase authorization for a replacement of the radiator that's in the hallway across the way. So,
Right
right, I can
out
see
the
it from
door
here.
here, okay.
Across the hall. It's leaking. So at the bottom where the connection to the boiler loop connects to the radiator itself, the whole radiator is essentially rotting out. It's been there for many decades. So we have a large boiler system for our heating, and it's interconnected with this one and all the others around the building. They don't make radiators like this anymore. So there's a replacement cab unit, they call it, that has an older look to it, but it's a modern item. And in order to replace it, we need to have the old one completely cut out of the system. The system has to be shut down,
Yep.
isolated, cut out, and then reinstalled. The total cost of the entire repair is $7,735.93.
Was there any consideration of not replacing it with a radiator, but with a heat pump or something different with modern technology, more efficiency?
If it weren't already connected with the rest of the building, we would be having that conversation, because we've got them down in the probate office, we've got it in the deeds office for cooling. But because this is the oldest section of the building, this is what Siemens is recommending that we do, is to replace it with an existing connection in the system. The next thing that I have is a heat pump. That's
So there,
for the
you get
comm
your-
center.
You get your
Okay.
heat pump.
All
But
right.
to give you a price comparison, that request is $35,000. And this one is $7,000. So it's, yes, we've looked at it, but at this point, the recommendation is to go the lesser route and to connect it into a system that has to operate anyway, that is already heating the rest of the building also.
I move to approve the purchase authorization for the radiator replacement, $7,735.93.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 2-0.
What's the timeline for that to get put in?
As soon as we give them the okay, they'll order it. Yeah, Siemens has been
Plenty
very,
of time before winter though, right? Yeah.
What does a
Right.
cab unit look like?
it looks similar to that.
Okay.
But what they've proposed is a little bit more, I don't have the photo.
That's okay.
They provided me with a photo of what it would look like.
Okay.
It looks more like that than like that.
So when the boiler goes, then we would replace everything with a geothermal system or heat pumps, right?
We don't talk about the boiler going,
Okay.
first of all.
Just something to think about
'Cause
as
that's
we
going to
go
be a
forward.
very expensive
Yeah.
proposition. We have had 2 different boiler leaks, and the majority of those repairs were covered under our insurance policy. We had a $1,500 deductible, and the rest of that was paid for through the policy.
The boiler has been for how many years is it?
It's over 20 years old,
Okay.
but boilers of that size, it's as big as your desk.
Okay.
Boilers of that size last quite a long time, and we get it regularly maintained.
Okay. Great.
So, yes, it is a good time to replace this, because the heating system has been shut down. In fact, the AC was just worked on yesterday to get that charged for the summer cooling season. So it's a good time for it to go.
Right.
And need replacement. Okay, so that one's done and needs to be signed. And the next item is in relationship to the movement of all of the servers at the comm center. So to go back in time, we had a server rack under the stairs in an enclosed area at the comm center in the lower level. It was very difficult to access. It was an enclosed space, so we needed specialized training to access it, and it got very hot under the stairs, in addition to being right next to the sewer line. So we've moved all of that equipment out. It's now in another room, but subsequently, the heat that's generated from all of that equipment is really greater than what the AC unit was designed to provide in that room. So I asked Siemens to come out and look at it because they're the ones that we've contracted with to provide our heating and air conditioning, and they are recommending a standalone heat pump for that space. It's mostly for cooling. We could use it for heating also in the winter, but because of the heat that the equipment throws off, heating is less of a concern to us than AC right now.
So last time I was over there, it was sort of an open room. Has a wall been put up and it's sort of separated, or is it still in that big?
It's still
Open
that
room out
open
there.
room, and I think we're going to just go to a secure room. Instead of putting
The whole
a
thing
separate wall, we'll just secure the whole room down
Okay,
and not have the expense of the wall.
okay. And is this such a large expense because of the size of that room? I mean,
It's because the equipment is designed for IT rooms. It's a specific type of heat pump that they recommend for that type of a room.
okay. And it will go out the wall by the roadway, right? There'll be an outside unit.
It will
And an
likely be on
inside
the
unit?
grass
Okay.
next to the
Oh,
two that are existing for the rest of the
okay.
building. We do have heat pumps there already.
Right, not attached to the building, but off to the side.
Right, it will likely be a standalone unit. We do have, the heat pumps that are here have the unit on the wall,
The
but then
inside,
there's
okay.
the secondary piece of equipment that's on the ground.
Okay, great.
But this one will likely be larger than those.
Right, okay.
So this is not included in the budgeted dollars that were set aside for the movement of that equipment. This would need to come out of our capital improvement reserve account. There's plenty of money in there to cover this cost, but I just wanted to let you know that this was not a regularly budgeted item.
Right.
We would need to pay for that out of the reserve.
What do we think our capital reserve account sits at, roughly?
I would be making up a number if I gave you one. I
Okay.
can look that up after the meeting
Okay.
and get you a balance.
Thank you for not just throwing out a number.
It would be complete fiction.
There we go.
Okay, I move to approve the purchase authorization for the server room heat pump, $34,653.24.
I second that. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye, 2-0, it passes.
Thank you. The next item is a grant award press release that was shared with us through Maine Municipal Association. We belong to the Workers' Comp Fund through MMA. They provide all of our workers' comp coverage and case management. And they have a safety grant process where you can apply for funds for safety type equipment or projects that help reduce the exposure to the employees for any type of workplace injuries. So the grant that we submitted was for some turnout gear for our emergency management agency. They sometimes respond to fire scenes or hazardous substance scenes where they should have heavy duty boots, they should have fire helmets if they're near a fire scene, and I think that was it. For all three of the employees, they are asking for helmets and boots. We also recognize that our maintenance staff, when they're out in the parking lot area at night or in the wintertime after it gets dark, it's hard to see them sometimes, so we ask for some reflective coats for all of the maintenance staff, and Maine Municipal has awarded us that request. The total amount of the grant is $2,690, and we've received these types of grants in the past, and they're very beneficial for us.
I move to accept the MMA Workers' Comp Fund grant.
I second that. All in favor of accepting the grant?
Aye.
Aye, passes 2-0. What is our general experience with workers' comp? Is it, I mean, I'm sure Lincoln County Recycling or maybe the Sheriff's Department may be a little more riskier, but generally, do we have a lot of claims or are we
It-
doing well?
It comes in waves. I
Okay.
mean, there's a lot of injuries that our employees have that we can't control. So if one of our deputies gets bitten by a dog on an accident scene, it's hard to control something like
Right.
that, but it's still a workers' comp claim.
Okay,
We aggressively try to manage our workers' comp claims so that we can decrease that. Any decrease that we have helps with our insurance rates. So the claims experience, we always want to be zero, but
right,
whenever we do have an incident, we investigate it and find any controls that we can put in place that would minimize future exposure to that.
great.
So the different locations are rated differently based on the occupations that they have. So obviously the sheriff's office, the recycling center would be exposed to more, their rates are higher than the folks at the courthouse. But we're pretty hands-on with managing it to make sure that we keep our claims low.
And is the fund all MMA members or just a,
You have to be a
bunch of
member
them.
to be able to participate in it.
okay,
Yeah, so we participate in the workers' comp fund and also the health insurance, the health trust
from them? And then
Through
everything
MMA.
else with the risk pool?
for liability.
For
Yes.
liability. Got it. All right, thank you.
Next item is another tax abatement appeal application, and this is also with the town of Whitefield. I reached out to the applicant to make sure that they had submitted a complete application. There was a piece of that application that was missing, and they did submit that by the deadline. So I'd like you to officially accept it, and then I'll move forward with scheduling the hearing for you.
Move to accept the tax abatement appeal application for the town of Whitefield.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 2-0. Does it make sense to group them, like we have one on the 10th, having one in the afternoon with that one in the morning?
Probably
or
they
is
can't
that
be
too
scheduled
close,
that
or,
quickly.
you know?
I can try. I don't know if the parties are available, but
I was just thinking for efficiency's sake,
yeah, that makes
bunching
sense.
them up makes sense as long as the one
It's
on
hard to
in the morning
anticipate,
goes,
yeah.
longer and then,
Yeah,
you know,
I won't expect them to
Yeah.
have a week to want to jump in.
yeah. Oh, check it out and if it does, we'll see.
And is there a notice component of that? Or-
There is,
Yeah.
Oh.
there is. That's why you have to accept it so that I can then issue the
Then you
notice.
Okay.
notice. Okay, great.
The next item is a payment authorization from the probate court. This is for court-appointed guardian ad litem for minor guardianship proceedings. This was approved by,
I think 2 meetings ago, or maybe last meeting,
that
Last
was for,
meeting, I think.
yeah, that was for court-appointed attorney
Attorney.
also. This one is for
Oh.
guardian ad
it's a-
litem.
okay. Oh, which may or may not be an attorney.
It is an attorney in this case, but
Okay,
serving as the guardian ad
serving
litem.
as a guardian ad litem.
And the total amount of this purchase request is $3,165, and this is a budgeted item.
And how often do these types come up? Not very often. They might come
They're
in.
usually not this high.
There could be 5 next month.
There could be 5 next month. There could be none for 5 months, and then I see them usually for a much lesser amount. That's why you don't
Yeah, that
have them to approve often.
Okay.
might have been a difficult case otherwise, or whatever, but.
Yeah, there were many family members involved in this.
All right, move to approve the payment authorization, $3,165 for the court-appointed guardian ad litem.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 2-0, it passes.
And we'll sign them.
Sign.
And we'll sign them.
Make sure we do not escape without signing them. All right, looks like we have some old business.
So the old business, I do have an update for you for the public safety building. We had a meeting on Friday with the architect consultants, and we've narrowed the list of possible locations down quite substantially. We have another meeting scheduled in a week or so, I believe it is. And we're focused on finding locations that are central to the county, that have quick access to Route 1, that are large enough based on the space needs that the consultants have given us. And I think the next step of this is to reach out to property owners to see if they'd be interested in selling the property, or if they have other ideas, we're open to hearing what they are. So we're moving along in the process, and have we had a meeting? We haven't had a meeting since the station design conference.
Right.
And we had 3 of our department heads go to that, and they all came back with very positive suggestions. They've got there's a whole list of different ideas and suggestions that we should be looking at. They all benefited from going to that, so it was money well spent.
Would that have a bearing on the choice of land, some of their ideas, or like how does that get integrated into the process? Does that get passed on to the architects to sort of design?
Well, since we have one here, one of our representatives here.
Please come up,
Yeah.
share your
We'd love to hear
experiences.
some more about.
Well, first off, commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to attend the conference. We weren't really sure, while we saw the agenda ahead of time, we still weren't certain what we might take away from it. Excuse me, one of the most beneficial times was they allowed us one-on-one times with an architect team. So ahead of time, we filled out this questionnaire as to what we were even looking for, and our needs and proposed needs were, and the types of departments that we were going to be integrating into this building. And so they set us up with a team who could speak to us specifically, which was very helpful, because it just so happened within the last few years they had constructed a building that not housed just 1 or 2 of our departments, but all 3 departments exactly the same. It was in a different jurisdiction, obviously, different population and personnel needs. However, they understood what we were looking to accomplish. And from that, they really helped us to really focus on working together and utilizing our shared spaces as best as we could, and understanding that while we each had needs of one certain thing, how can we integrate that into the building so that when I'm not using the entire space, someone else can use it, but yet it's still behind a secured area of the building. And so they had a lot of ideas and encouraged us as to how to make things function in a way that we all could use it while not creating 3 different of the same thing in 3 different areas within the building. They also brought up just ways to move through the process in a very orderly way to help everybody stay on track, help us to keep track of things. I'll just mention one of the ideas was to have a document that said, well, why did we choose not to use, I'll make up something like 8x6 windows. We decided to go by 9x7 windows. And they said, have a document that has what the date was that you chose this and why you chose it, or why you didn't choose something. So that when you get down through, and whether it be the public who has a question or yourself or another department, like, why didn't we go with that? We thought, wouldn't that have been an option? And then you start questioning yourself and you don't know why you did it. And if you go back and you look at this document, it helps all parties involved understand, remember, we didn't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And you can support your decisions better, and you can understand why you didn't go a certain direction, even amongst our own departments. Like, wait, but I said I really wanted this. Why did we not do it? And so it helped us to learn how to work together much better. We took training 2 years ago about not being siloed and working together. And this conference just really helped us to really understand that while we were even trying to do that before, now we really found a way to mesh together. And even in locating a site, considering things that don't come to my mind, first and foremost, for example, EMA, they were really, what they took from it, because they're always thinking of the worst, the hazards and everything else. Is there a danger or a hazard nearby the site we were looking at? And in one of them, that actually was the case. There was a hazard nearby of a propane, infrastructure. Well, we clearly don't want to be right next door to something that could really impact us even functioning in our building if they had an emergency. So we gained a lot from it. We brought it back, we met with Carrie. Some of those tidbits we were able to pass on when we had our last meeting with the architects and the site planning and everything. And so it helped in determining that too, and why some of the things we had been told from the architect, well, we should have this or that, and we were like, well, we don't really understand why. The design conference helped us to have that knowledge behind it and that education as to, okay, this is why they're saying that, and it made more sense.
Did it help you with determining the layout of your, because right now you're sort of in a circle, like, is that the best, most efficient way, or?
Well, one thing, there were a couple things with that. It definitely did help in some ways because we realized there are more spaces we can share than we realized that we could share. And so that was very helpful for that portion. And the other thing is they had a section on like a piece of land shaped like, just like one of the little towns, say in our county, and like say that was the piece of land, and we said our building was supposed to be this shape. They helped us understand that it doesn't have to be set in this shape. Like you can turn things and make things work that way. So it helped us to understand that maybe it means we go up. Maybe it means instead of a rectangle, it's an octagon or whatever. But there's ways of working together to determine that we can make things work. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2.
Wow.
So it was very beneficial, I think, for all of us. And I think the report out that we provided to Carrie also showed that we had gained a lot from that.
Great. And you feel you're working better with the other departments because of just going down there together and learning together?
I think so. I think that we all have a better understanding of maybe what each other's needs may be and why. And also, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If we want to, I don't know, hypothetically get this extra thing over here that we really ought to have, well, if we can work together and combine this thing that we need here, well, then the funds may be more realistic to actually attain this. So I think that in that way it helped us to really work together. And I think it'll continue through the process.
I've already seen a change in
Yeah.
the way the communication is flowing.
Great.
Good.
Well, thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
that
much.
information. So are we down to 5 sort of parcels now, or is it the number of spot potential?
I think it's somewhere between, it's right around 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you concerned if we get down to that it won't be in a central location because it won't work out if somebody doesn't?
So as we were evaluating on Friday, the parcels that are more ideal but farther from center they're still on the list. They're just not on the list we're focusing on today.
Okay.
So today these are the ones that we really want to pursue because they check off a lot of the boxes and scored high. But if we find ourselves in a position where the landowner isn't willing to sell, or if the price is just way too high for us to consider, then those other ones are sitting in the wings waiting to be considered.
And do we have a project timeline? So by X date, we want to know what, where the location would be, and then we can then shift it to design or something like that.
So ideally, we should be really hoping for land acquisition by the end of the summer.
Okay.
Or having a parcel that we're actively pursuing through the process. Then we can go into design. The reason for that timeline is because we're trying to get into the next round of congressionally directed spending grant applications, and they're usually in the springtime. They came out in April this year. So if we can have a piece of property that we've acquired, if we can have public support of the project, and if we can have a design ready to build, those help us with the scoring of the grant.
Okay.
And we get a better outcome.
But it doesn't need to be shovel-ready for the grant, or does it?
It doesn't have to be completely shovel-ready, but
Okay.
having land and having public support, and we've already gone through this design process, that shows the reviewers at the federal level that yes, we are committed to this project, and yes, we are ready to move it forward. It's not just a, wouldn't it be great to have type of project.
Exactly.
They want to have funding go towards project that they can see completed. And there's been a lot of projects that have been funded in this state. We, right now, with our delegation, we've got some pretty strong advocates in our
Right.
corner.
And having those relationships gonna help us certainly as we
Right.
pursue newer projects.
And I've already reached out to every one of those offices
Great, thank
to
you.
let them know that we're going to be asking for their support on this. So they're just waiting for us to say we're ready.
Great.
Good.
Well, keep us informed as you start talking with the property owners.
Yes, yes. And I've had some folks interested in helping with that, those communications.
Great, thank you.
So our next tax abatement hearing is going to be next week because it's more of a lengthy application and I expect it to take more time. So I've scheduled that for June 10th at 9 a.m. We'll hold that in the multipurpose room.
That's the town of Bremen.
Town of Bremen,
Okay.
yes.
Also known as like the probate court, right?
The same,
Multi-purpose
yeah.
room.
Yeah, it's set up more as a court hearing room than this room is.
Yeah. And you expect that many parties, if you will, so we need that room.
It's more comfortable when you
Yeah.
have
And you
represented.
don't have to have people coming up and sitting down
Right,
and switching
right.
sides at the
Exactly,
table.
yeah.
We can just turn our heads
There we go, yeah. Right.
a little to the left, a little to the
Left or
right.
right, yes, exactly.
Is the county are the county offices going to be closed on June 19th on Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, just so everybody has that on the calendar.
Are employees opting to take Fridays off? Is that an option for people if they wanted a long weekend or
We've had several employees schedule vacation days for
request?
the
that?
20th.
Yeah, okay. So the 2 days will be rather slow around here. 1 day, obviously, because they're out.
Yeah. I'll be surprised if there's any court activity on
Yeah.
Friday.
Okay. All right, commissioner updates. Commissioner Gukowski, do you have anything to?
Since our last LCRPC, Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission meeting, we've gained 2 members from Whitefield and an alternate. We've gotten a second member from Edgecombe. We've recruited and are waiting for an approval on a second member from Booth Bay. And so that's great for the membership, and we currently have no participation from Jefferson, South Bristol, and Monhegan Plantation. And I've previously reached out to South Bristol and will be reaching out to Jefferson and I've reached out to Monhegan as well. So trying to get all the positions filled, but at least first get representation from every town.
So the members who are present, are they really, or that you've listed, are they engaged or? You know,
They haven't attended their first meeting yet, all of these new people.
Oh, okay.
So the
You'll have to
first,
see.
the next full board meeting of that is June 18th at 6 p.m. And they meet on Zoom mostly. They had their annual meeting in April, and they go, I think, hybrid for 2 meetings, and complicated.
And in theory, it's supposed to be 2 from every town.
Correct.
Okay, that's
Yep.
a big board.
Plus a
That's it.
commissioner appointed.
And the
At large.
commissioners, okay.
Two of those.
2?
So 42 members?
We're lucky to get 12 to 15, I would say. We've just, I think, since I've started, we've filled 2 towns. Previously, we had no participation from Edgecombe and Dresden. They are now full. And then Booth Bay actually had no representation about 4 months ago, just because everybody kind of took off during COVID or everything got scattered, but now we're building it back up.
And is they're looking more at grants, or what's the function of that group?
They do a staff update, tell the towns what they're working on. The towns do a round table, talk about what they're working on. So it's a good networking opportunity, and they talk in general about goings on, the different grants that the Planning Commission is working on, and more or less how everybody can get involved.
And is it a feeder system for like individual towns to learn what grants could be available for their towns?
That's definitely part of it. Every spring, there's the Ask grant application, which is ASK is an acronym for Assistance with Specific Know-How. So stuff that the towns know they want to do, but they really don't even know either where to start, or they need a leg up because it's just out of their wheelhouse. So
Newcastle just
and that's what we
benefited
just
from that.
approved. Yep,
Yeah.
It's 4 of those recently.
Great.
So those are like the direct assistance, but in a more general sense, everybody gets to know what's going on, and we know how everybody stays siloed when they're in their own towns and don't know what else is going on 3 miles away.
I mean, and particularly for that organization to be able to find those opportunities for grants to help their towns.
Yep.
I know Damerscott and Newcastle seem to be taking a lot of advantage of the opportunities through there, so
They do show up.
it would be advantageous if all the towns were there, I would
You better
think.
believe it.
Yeah.
So that's my goal by
But
the end
it's
of.
Probably a long
the
haul
year.
for Monhegan to
Yep. Well, now they've got internet, so hoping that we can get somebody to remotely
Zoom.
participate more
Okay.
often.
Okay.
I'm hoping that comes to bear some advantage when we do our hazard mitigation plan. So we'll be updating the county's hazard mitigation plan, and the planning office is gonna take a lead in that project. We also need all of the towns to update theirs, so if we've got representatives from all these towns on the RPC board, then maybe we can tap into them to help get the town hazard mitigation plans updated as well.
But EMA's managing that process, but through the planning
The
commission.
planning office takes a significant role in helping with
Okay,
that.
just
Yeah.
to, as a great communications source or whatever, because they have everybody, well, almost everybody around the table, right?
Right, and they also have access to all the data that
Uh-huh.
EMA needs for that.
Okay,
They helped with it last
Right.
time we updated it.
Right.
And they'll be doing that again this
Okay.
time. I've also asked them to help with the regulatory analysis on all of the sites that
Oh.
we're looking at for the sheriff's building, so
Mhm.
they're gonna have some hours consumed by
Right.
that. When we get to the point where we need
Right.
to make sure that there's no zoning and setbacks and all
Mm-hmm.
those types of rules.
I suspect that if you can get it down to 1 or 2 towns, that's gonna be a lot easier than if the parcels
Absolutely,
span 3 or 4 different,
absolutely. And some are
municipalities,
easier
so-
to navigate than others.
right, okay.
CCWI, I believe Emily Raby is attending that meeting to replace Alex Zaparo, who's going to be on vacation on June the 12th. And I've got to touch base. I think that they're going to have a representative from MC Hunt who might be interested in joining the business board of that. So that would be increasing our Lincoln County representation and the business representation,
So
which
just,
is important.
CCWI, can
The
you,
Coastal Counties Workforce Incorporated.
thank you.
Yes.
So I'll just, you done?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Just on MCCA, is that the chair of the organization, which is Maine County Commissioners Association, just put a call out to all county commissioners to try to contact their legislative representatives and senators to advocate for a couple bills in the legislature, one particularly that is advocating that the state pay 35% of the jail costs. And then the other one was for a specific appropriation. We haven't done anything here, and I don't know if we should do something collectively or individually, but Senator Rennie is on appropriations, and we should
So is.
probably communicate with her.
Yeah.
about-
Representative Stover is also
And then Stover is, yes.
Yeah. both on appropriations.
Yeah.
I took a different approach than MCCA,
Okay,
and I've collected all of the amounts that Lincoln County spends on corrections-related activities, whether it's the direct contribution to Two Bridges, or it's the programming or transportation that we provide for the activities. And I calculated how much the state reimburses us compared to our costs. And one of the arguments is the state contribution is less than 20% now. In Lincoln County, that number's 10%. Because we get so few dollars from the state based on our inmate population for Lincoln County that we're paying 90% of the cost.
although we house
Although we house from all
all
over
over
the
the
state.
state.
So,
And oftentimes, people that would normally end up in state prison that have gotten a plea arrangement to end up in
Right.
our jail.
right,
And that stay significantly long periods of time as well.
with no funding.
With no funding, yeah.
Right, so I wanted to make it
Okay.
personal for both of them, and I plan on sending that out this afternoon.
Okay.
So that they can see not only how much of a percentage are we paying, but how many dollars for each town. Of their tax commitment, how many dollars are specifically for jail activities? So that they can see how it relates to the people that they're representing.
Right. And I would think it's worth noting that, since we have collaborated with Saginaw, and apparently other counties are interested in joining the authority, that, maybe they should award efficiency, and some money there, where it's doing, maybe more productively than
Right.
in other jails.
Right,
Not that we
We've not
want
been
to.
rewarded for that
Yeah.
historically.
Yeah.
Was,
Even-
sorry, go ahead.
Even when the MAT money that was distributed a couple years back, it went to jails that it went disproportionately to other jails, and not all jails got funding for it,
Right.
even though we all have MAT costs.
Yeah. And, yeah, Lincoln, Saginaw, Knox, Penobscot, Waldo, and then the federal stuff, I mean, that serves quite a lot of people,
Right.
yeah. Well, that's all I had on MCCA, except for a reminder that in September is the annual convention. So
It looks pretty robust this year.
it does look like some interesting speakers, and I've only been down to Sebasco. Sebasco once, I was sort of on the outside. It was a golf tournament, so I don't know what the facilities are like inside for the thing, but nice location. I mean, close down by the water.
Yeah, they try to move it around for different host counties.
Right. And does each county bring anything to the convention or do anything to highlight, or is it the host area or host county that is sort of?
So they have
Yeah.
attendee convention bags so that you can add things to that bag,
Right.
whether it's something that's tourism related or something specific to your,
Right.
your county operations. You can
Okay.
add to that. They'll be
Like-
asking for that in the next couple months.
Okay. Like tickets to the road show or something like that, right?
Good
From
luck
Lincoln
getting
County.
Not all of us were lucky enough to get there.
I guess so. Some people are connected in a way.
On the topic of the jail funding, I was at the property tax school put on by Maine Revenue Service yesterday, and during the legislative update portion, and maybe this is the bill that you were referring to, they talked about LD 852. Is that
It could be.
so that one
There's
is
several of them.
co-sponsored by
Yeah.
Rennie and Stover.
On jail funding, yes.
An act to reduce the property tax burden by adequately funding county jail operations.
I think it was beneficial to invite our delegates to the jail. When
Yep,
they get to see firsthand
Right.
what we struggle with.
we can invite people all the time.
And then keep following up, obviously, with updates, not
Right.
just leave it at that. But,
Cool. So that's on everybody's radar.
yeah.
I don't know, I think that they were discussing that the report might be coming out from the committee on that soon, if it hadn't already. Ought to pass as amended on May 14th, so don't know when it's going in front of the chamber.
And that was criminal justice, right?
Well, the session's narrowing down, so I'm
So we
sure.
don't need to ask them to pass their own bill.
But it's beneficial for them to know that
Yep.
we're paying attention and that we still want their support on it.
Yep.
And I would hope the information that they gain, they pass on to others who they're trying to bring on board and join up too.
We've
So
been-
the information is critical. It's like, yeah.
We've been asked for a lot of data in the last 6 months to support what we've been telling them, whether it's our costs for addiction treatment
Right.
or mental health, or they've been asking for jail audits recently. Well, not all counties can get an auditor to update their regular financial audit, so getting an audit just of jail finances is even a harder struggle for
Right.
them to act on. It's not that we don't want to, it's that
Right.
we can't find qualified auditors that are willing to do
And
it.
I understand some counties are behind a couple of years. on
Several
it, Yeah.
counties are
So,
behind.
Not Lincoln County, of course, we're
No.
on top of it.
No, we should have our audit, I think, the next meeting.
Nice.
It went through most of the processes, it just needed final
Okay.
sign off.
Well, I look forward to seeing that.
And it'll be clean.
Right.
Cool, I think that's all from me.
Well, then maybe we need a motion.
Move to start executive session 1 MRSA 405 subsection 6 subsection A
Which is personnel.
under personnel.
Nice, okay. All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes 2-0.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you.